This is The Art of Startup War, and I am your host, Brian MacMahon. I am the sensei here at Expert Dojo, the fastest growing startup accelerator in Southern California. Now, in the first 2 seasons, we answered your questions about how to find investment for your business. We brought in the most accomplished investors in startup in America. You can find it on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Now, here in season 3, we're flipping the script. We're going to hear real stories from entrepreneurs who are in the trenches today. In these episodes, we're going to take our guests through the storytelling model called the entrepreneur's journey. We'll hear about what sparked their call to entrepreneurship, help they received along the way, forces they overcame, dark times and revelations. So join us every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Start the week a smarter entrepreneur. It is Tuesday morning, it's 10 o'clock. Brian here from Expert Dojo. I have an amazing entrepreneur here today. We are going to talk about the future of your data and how you can monetize it. So it's going to be a fascinating conversation. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm pleased to be here.
And we're going to talk all about Cocoon. But before we do that, can we just look a little bit back in history about yourself? Give our listeners a little bit of an insight into who Jeff is.
Well, thanks, Brian. I'm actually originally from New York, and I was recruited. I'm lucky enough to be recruited by USC. Be a tennis player, a very competitive human being. Every sport I ever played, hockey, skiing, everything very competitive. And lucky enough.
We need to play tennis, by the way. We need to play tennis just so you can feel better about you being good at tennis.
I don't play anymore, so that's going to be a tough call. I quit 25 years ago to do other things like this.
I got to bring you back. It'd be like your comeback tour.
Yeah, definitely not.
You'd be like George Foreman.
Listen, I'm a cyclist, and I actually rode and crashed with Lance Armstrong. And the first thing he said to me after he looked at me, I broke my wrists, and he said, "You should you should not be a cyclist. Or not be a racer. Don't race."
No.
Yes.
That sucks.
Yeah.
At least it was Lance telling you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. It was Lance
hurt.
telling me. No, it
That
was fun.
Please continue.
So that was my history. And then my father was a real estate developer, built a lot of shopping centers around the world, around the country. And I decided to get into the real estate business. I work for, you guys probably all know, Tom Selleck on TV. Mm-hmm. I actually worked for his father. It was one of my first jobs, working for Bob Selleck.
Wow.
Great mentor. Taught me about sales and how to make things happen, how to be, I was already competitive, and he loved the competitive side of me. So from there, I actually opened my own real estate development company. I was very successful in Santa Barbara. I built over 1 million square feet.
Crazy.
But that wasn't good enough for me. I didn't feel challenged enough. I actually felt like, God, this challenge is, even in Santa Barbara, which is probably the hardest place in the country to develop.
Because what? There's so much competition?
No,
or because of regulation.
Yeah, regulation really, that's a really tough thing there. And I used to hear a lot of "I'm concerned," which just meant no.
I like that. It's such a polite no.
It was a very polite way of saying. Absolutely, it was really funny because after a while, someone would get up to the podium and say, "I have a concern," and I would say to myself, "Oh, you just mean no."
But you were successful. I mean, 1 million square feet is no mean feat.
Yeah, I was successful in it. And the thing that's different about me is I'm a creative person. So after a while, I created workforce housing. I was the first guy to come up with middle-income housing for Santa Barbara. So I'm a creative person. I like to take puzzles that are difficult, take them apart, put them back together, and figure out how to make something work.
Beautiful. Okay. And then what brought you to the world of tech? Because you're killing it in real estate. You're obviously becoming a major developer up in Santa Barbara. You could have expanded to other regions.
Yes, yeah, I could have, and I chose to stay in Santa Barbara. But it's funny enough that my first tech experience. Well, first of all, I built a bunch of tech buildings, so I had a lot of tech.
What is a tech building? Is it just the way it's configured, such as co-working spaces, collaborative spaces, hot desking, or is it the wiring, the cabling that goes into it?
It was way back 20 years ago. It was way different. It was really what they call flex space. So upstairs you had second floor. It was open space. Downstairs you might have had a little warehouse area, so it was 20 feet clear. and a lot of tech companies moving in. Santa Barbara amazingly has like 16 million square feet of tech.
Wow.
So it's actually for 250,000 people, it's got a large tech sector.
Wow.
So I
Okay.
was building that, and I started running into companies that were, tech. One company I ran into was a little company called Expert City. You probably may have not heard of them. And the funny story about them was their founder, Klaus Schloss, was a professor at UCSB, and he had come up with this GoToMeeting. And he actually hadn't thought of it until he had a disaster in his own company. And he thought, well, I'll be at home. Why don't I go to my computer at my office? That way I can stay home. And that hit him to GoToMeeting. And that became Citrix GoToMeeting,
Crazy.
which went on from there.
Wow. Okay. But you did not stay in development. You made a move into the tech space, which actually, for people listening, people, I don't know. It's like he's an entrepreneur. He's going from one development type space to another. No, not true. Like moving in from a developing buildings to the development of app space is night and day. Like it's like working for a nonprofit one day and then working for Donald Trump the next day. It's so incredibly extreme. Plus, the domain expertise that's required in both are very, very different. So, firstly, what possessed you to do it? And secondly, how did you manage it?
Well, what possessed me is kind of interesting. It was kind of a coincidence of GoToMeeting, which I got to try very early on, and then realizing all types of terrible things were happening to me on my computer. I knew nothing about the computer. Yeah, I was getting emails from all over the place, people spying on me, get viruses. And I was like, wait, there has to be a better way than what's happening to me. There's got to be a better way of protecting yourself. And that got me to starting to play with GoToMeeting from remotely from my home, going to my office and realizing, well, actually, there might be a better way by putting a server in between me and the rest of the internet world. So that's how the big idea kind of happened for the first part of Cocoon. And so that's really what got us started off. When I realized, wait, we should do a better job of protecting people. And my background has always been about people. When I built my office, my portfolio in real estate, it's always been about people, and not necessarily about how much money you make. Although you got to make some money, but it was how do I do a better job? So I'm a very focused person on people.
Okay. And then so you decided was this the idea at this stage for the protection, or was this just a thought that kept going through your mind? And how did you develop that idea?
So it was a thought. I actually reached out to Klaus Schlauser, who was the founder of the Citrix Online, and I said I have this idea, and he said, "Well, I'm too busy. I'm going to build another company. Go see a guy named Brian Fox in town. He's a brilliant software developer. Pose the idea to him." And I posed the idea to Brian, and Brian thought, "Well, that's pretty brilliant. And how would you know this, Jeff?" And it's me, I knew nothing about computers, really.
But you know about people.
But I knew about people. I knew that they were struggling with their computers and with bad things happening to them. And I thought, well, maybe this is a great solution.
And then what happened?
So Brian and I started building out this software. People had to come show me how to turn on my computer, basically. It was pretty hilarious. I thought, no, you're pushing the wrong button. Push this button over here. So I learned a lot about technology. I still can't code anything, but I know about people and what they want and what they're concerned about. And so that was sort of the first great step into building, our browser.
Okay, so the idea was to create more protection on the internet by putting a server in between everybody and the internet itself, right?
Correct.
So how did you go about starting to do that, and how did that take? And then let's talk a little bit about some of the pivots along the way, because as all of us start building technology, we then start testing it with consumers, and then we start to get feedback, which then leads us down lots of roads. It's like branches on a tree.
Sure. So Brian and I got a little game plan together, Brian Fox and I. And he started building. I started paying because I had fairly deep pockets. It wasn't the typical entrepreneur who had just a little bit of money.
Yeah.
I had a fair amount of money, and so we started to build this out. And we hit all types of roadblocks, and some of them were monstrous. What Brian had built was phenomenally good, but it was phenomenally complicated.
Of course.
So all of a sudden we're not allowing you to download viruses. We're keeping them in the cloud. you're storing all your data in the cloud, so no one can see what you have, but only you can see it. The advertisers couldn't see it, and it turned out to be a fabulous work of art.
Yeah.
But it was crazy complicated. And some of the downsides were we started as an extension, and I learned a terrible lesson about extensions. Extensions, when Chrome changes something or Firefox changes something,
Kills
you
the
might go down.
extensions.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you don't have control. That was one thing that was,
You're driving on
Yeah.
somebody else's driving license.
right. And it was a terrible lesson to learn, because all of a sudden we're having all these users, and then all of a sudden we had no users because for 10 days we didn't know how to fix that extension. So that was a mistake. And another mistake was we were killing it in Iran. I mean, we had
Oh,
300,000 or
really?
400,000
Oh, my
users in the first year,
What were they doing?
all using it to get our so Cocoon also could use it as a VPN to get around firewalls, because everything is IP'd. All your
Yeah.
IP is here in the United States.
Uh-huh.
So the government couldn't, at that point, figure out how to stop the Iranians, and we were putting up servers like crazy and scaling like all get out. And all of a sudden, Iran pulled the plug and they went intranet, meaning there was no internet.
Wow.
So we lost 300,000 or 400,000 people literally in 3 to 4 days.
Wow.
So,
And how much were they paying before that?
well, no, this was free, and our
Okay.
idea was advertising, and that was another pitfall that we didn't realize how we were going to scale. We thought, well, we could show ads. Back then, 7 years ago, advertisers that didn't want your IP address, there were some around. Today, they're not around. So all of a sudden, we found that as a dead end, and then we tried to.
Because hiding their data means hiding their data, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So an average. I'm not to say I'm a pretty smart guy,
it's brilliant.
but
It's brilliant, but it's yeah.
it wasn't the smartest move in the world, and I'll admit that. I mean, once the thing you have to admit as an entrepreneur is you're going to make mistakes,
Yeah.
and you got to owe up to them. You can't just make them somebody else's mistake. And I always look at this, even if one of my teammates makes a mistake, it's my mistake, because I'm the CEO. And so maybe he made a mistake, but I should have recognized it.
I also think this is not a straight line conversation, right? If
Right.
we're in the middle of a public company that's been trading for 50 years and we get up on stage and we say something that we shouldn't say, that's a mistake, because we should have known better. Like, shame on
Right.
us. With the company was running for a while, the processes and procedures are in place, we made a mistake. Or if we acquire a new company and have the same, then that's okay. Startup is a different world. And so everybody listening who is an investor, they'll be like, yeah. Anybody who's listening who's a startup, you're like, yeah, of course it's a different world, Brian. But for those of you who are not startups, there is no roadmap. Like, we have an idea about how something's going to be fixed, but there are hardly any products that exist today that the founder back when it very first started had that intention for their company. Like, maybe Jeff Bezos had the idea of creating a global marketplace that would destroy retail, maybe, but I doubt it. I would say he probably just had a really nice idea for being able to create a marketplace for books, and then and all the way through Airbnb and everybody's like, it's very. If you have any of these founders, none will say, this is exactly how I envisioned it. And it's because most of us start with kind of a 12, 13% of what the idea is really going to be. And then we need our users to verify whether it's a good idea or not, or whether it's going to be changed. Like, they're the only people who can tell us.
So correct.
And sometimes you got to go all the way to market to find that out. And we would rather not fail too hard. We'd rather fail a little bit less and then move on. But sometimes failing in that way and finding out that way is the best way to go forward and build the next iteration. So it's absolutely normal. I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. Then what did you do then? So you realized that you had built this brilliant technology, but there were some political challenges and then challenges with the advertising. What went through your head about where the play was?
So the next play I had was, well, maybe we should just sell Cocoon as a sort of a VPN, because we're not truly a VPN. We don't push everything through a pipe. We just secure and make all your packets private on your browser. And so I thought, well, this could be a brilliant idea. And it turned out when we got into this that we were being drowned by VPNs who could spend $30 to get a customer.
Yeah.
We couldn't spend $30 to get a customer. So that idea was good strategy. We found a lot of take in Asia because it turns out Asia wants to get U.S. market. But once again, we just couldn't make this in the dollars because we'd get drowned out by a VPN who could just spend a lot more money than we could to acquire that customer.
Yeah, it's just a money game. That's all it is, especially at the beginning. And that's one of the challenges startups have when you're at the initial stages, or even worse, when it's your money that you're pumping in. So you're like, okay, we can't have an immediate and easy sidetrack. Where do you go now?
So it's interesting. Not long ago, I was sort of fishing like, well, what else are we going to do? Cocoon's great. We have a couple bugs we still need to work out. But all in all, you can take it anywhere in the world. You could be private. The most private, and I would say Cocoon is probably, I shouldn't say this, but it's probably one of the most private browsers in the world because we leave nothing on your computer.
Wow.
So when you log out, if you want to save something, you can save it in the cloud, but it's never on your computer. You can, get a VPN. You can take this anywhere in the world, including China, and you can get U.S. content.
Wow.
So from that standpoint, it's a great private, I'll say, invisible way of being on the. But we couldn't make money. So with that, I was just getting to a point of going, I don't know what I'm going to do. When either my son or I thought of, or I was reading on the web how people started to believe, which I think is really true, that the data that they're producing, actually their own data. It's not Google's data. It's not Firefox's data. It's actually your own data. And that kind of brought a spark like, well, wait, if it's your own data, then why don't you get paid for your data? And so that sprung another idea is, well, maybe I should build a browser that can do both. One browser can make you private and secure, and the other part of the browser can allow you to monetize your data and you get paid for it. And so that was actually a big idea, a really big idea. And I started fishing around the web and I found almost no one doing it. I found a couple companies that did it and they didn't do it the way I thought you should do it. And so we started to go down this path, and that's where we're heading right now.
So it's so funny. So it's literally the opposite to where you started in the first place.
Totally.
Which is to look at the value, but it's beautifully the opposite. Like it was almost meant to be there because you first had to work out the value of the data and what the data was and what people were using it for and how your users felt about it to suddenly get to a place of, if I could give, 20, 30, 40 bucks a month to someone for actually sharing data that they're comfortable sharing.
Correct.
Which, by the way, is exactly what Google do. Like Chrome does exactly the same thing. It has your browser and then it has your incognito browser. Right? It has your two things. And incognito still shares, but not as much as your normal browser, right?
Right. Well, the only thing that I hate to say this, and everybody's pretty fooled like this, the only thing incognito is making private is in your house. So when you turn on an incognito, the only one who won't know is your wife, husband, your family. They won't know where you went. But the rest of the world absolutely knows.
Oh,
Google absolutely knows. So what we've built, and when we combine these, it will be the best stealth browser because literally no one knows. I won't know. Nobody on my team knows. We can't see what you're looking at. We don't want to see what you're looking at. So when you go private, because we're from a privacy standpoint, we want you to be private. And when you want to go public, you can just sell your data. You could not sell your data. It's kind of silly, but you just fill up an account. All your data that we sell is anonymous. So we don't care who you are. We get an email address that we can send your money to. But really, we're not interested in lots of numbers about you.
Because we're already selling our data today, right?
You're giving it away.
We're just selling it for free.
Yeah.
For
you're
zero.
Just giving it away. It's kind of the whole thing. I almost feel like a caveman. Like, why didn't I think of this before? It didn't dawn on me. But this is, it's not easy necessarily to do because you have to have filters and stuff to filter out things. But really, it's really where the internet should be, which is you should be allowed to monetize your anonymous data.
So explain how this would work. Because everybody listening to this, there's a couple of really wonderful things about this particular conversation. The first thing is, I don't need to be ridiculously clever to work this out. My data's already been given away, being sold.
Yes.
I'm giving it away. It's then being sold. And nothing is private. And everybody has access to everything except for my banking information and other things, which, of course, Google's not going to touch, right? But
Correct.
Everything else is open game. You have come in with a system whereby you're going to create a mirror of what Chrome does, and then that data that's going to be given to the same people that it would have been given to by Google, rather than Google collecting the, $60, $80, $100 what they get, now the consumer is going to get 20, 30, $40.
Right. We actually take it one step further. We actually filter things that advertisers won't buy or a hedge fund won't look at, and that has to do with your banking, maybe an adult site that you want to go to, might have to do with some other things that are very private. We try and be very careful not to sell that stuff, and they use the advertisers, hedge funds won't buy it anyway, and we filter all that out. So before this data goes out, we actually filter those things. So when we get it to the advertiser or to our broker, it's pretty clean data. It doesn't have your. I think there's a misnomer. Everybody thinks that your name is on that data. Your name, they don't care about your name. What they care about is the puzzle about who you are, what your profile looks like. They don't care about the name. They care about if you're going to go buy a lawnmower. They want to know, oh, he's going to go buy a lawnmower. Great. And he went yesterday and looked at garden goods. Oh, he loves gardening. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for your name necessarily.
And then what will happen is the adverts that then come up will just be more targeted towards me, right?
Right. And it might be even on Facebook, because what the advertiser is looking for
Which is actually a more curated experience for me anyway.
Yes.
So it's not like I have a problem with it. So let's start it from the beginning. I'm Joe Schmo. I opened up my computer. I bring up my browser. What browser do I bring up, and what do I do?
So you bring up Cocoon My Data Rewards, and it's very simple. All you do is you download it, and it gives you quick instructions. It's just like downloading Chrome or Firefox. It's no different. It's no slower. And then you'll see a little green button on the side which says monetizing or not monetizing. You want to make sure that is in green if you want to monetize it. If you don't monetize it, by the way, it just goes to Google and you just gave them all your information away for free. So you turn on the monetizing. 30 days later, we figure out how much money you made. We take a commission, and it's a modest commission. We take 15%. I'll tell you outright.
Very fair.
Yeah, and you get 85%. Broker takes a little fee on his side. He gives us the rest of the data. We take our fee, and we give you the rest. And I want you to have the rest. I want you to make money on the browser.
And more or less, what would a normal person expect to get?
So we did some testing, and we did a 30-day test, and they came out between $20 and $16. And that was kind of a lighter user. A heavier user goes to the New York Times, looks at maybe some medical products, reads the New Wall Street Journal, goes to Amazon. They could be making as much as $30 or $40 a month. So it doesn't sound like a lot of money until you go, wait, that's $400 or $500. And think of
for
a
nothing.
family. For doing nothing, for just the typical thing you would do. It looks like Chrome. It feels like Chrome. It's super fast. You can't tell the difference from what we're doing and what Chrome's doing. And yet you're making money, and we put cash. Some guys are trying to put Bitcoins out there. I don't believe in Bitcoins. I think, a person in Nebraska, they don't understand Bitcoin.
They have no idea.
Right? If they can get 20, think of a person who goes to Ebates a lot. How wonderful to show up with $20 in her account for just using our browser.
No, somebody just sitting at home and they're getting like $20 in. And I'm sure there's other ways that they can get other 20s and 30s on other systems that they can work by. Like, is it about smart working today? Not about silly working where we're just working all hours and we're leaving money on the table. So I love the idea. So what do we do next, right? We have this, you've built this, and you've put a lot of money into it. You've raised investment, which you've put into it as well, which is fantastic. So you already have other people who believe in the idea. And we're now going to do a raise, right, so that we can bring this out to everyone in America and have millions of people who are all monetizing their data. Can you give me a crystal ball about how that looks in the future?
Sure. So we raised our first $1 million. As you mentioned, Brian, I've put a lot of my own money, and I'm one of those guys that does not want to take anybody else's money until I'm fairly sure I got something big. Now, I think this is a huge play, not just in America. I mean, think about we have since we've been in China and we've had Indonesia people coming to us. This is a really big idea because just think the advertising to those people, to China, uh, could be, could just be a huge amount of money. They love to shop online. And so it's not just US. We're testing in US, but our goal is to get this out as fast as possible. We want to be best in the market. We want to be first in the market.
Right.
So at first is a little over $1 million. Then we want to move to 4 million, 10 million. And at 10 million, our numbers look fantastic. And the one thing I can tell you, which is really exciting, first thing I do is put some metrics. I look at everything. I like looking at metrics. And the first thing we did, we started looking at Facebook, and our approximate calculation was $3.50, $3.25 with viral, and we're at $1.88 and dropping. So our CAC looks amazing, and I'm thrilled with that. Now, we'll also have some drop off, but I've already calculated that into my numbers. So first thing is raise that million, get as fast as we can out into the market, grab that next set of money, and go like hell.
Beautiful. And then where can this go in the future?
Well, this can go around the world. This is such a big idea, and it just has. I met with a guy from Mexico, and he goes, "Oh my God, this should be in Mexico because any amount of money that they make off of your phone or their phone or their laptop is like a gift to them. That's just found money."
Especially somewhere like Mexico, by the way, where the average salary is $300 a month.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they would get paid less than like the $20 or $30, but still, as a percentage of annual salary, even if you're taking in like $5, $10, $15 a month, it's free money.
Yeah, it's free. As you said, it costs us less to get that customer there, by the way, because the advertising costs less, right? So it all kind of fits. And I'm an expert in CAC, by the way. I'm an expert in getting customers and knowing how to get those customers. I've been doing this for 5 or 6 or 7 years. I really know how to play that game. So
CAC is client acquisition cost, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, and then let's look at the investment side for a second. Obviously, part of the Expert Dojo Venture Studio, we're incredibly happy to have you. Everything we represent is about taking incredible entrepreneurs who are proven with a product that's absolutely disruptive. And I love the fact that you're going head to head with such a titan without people having to make a choice, right? And the choice, and for them, with a massive benefit of being able to get the money through. So I'm crazy excited to get to actually start getting to work with our investors. But you've already started working with your own investors. What's your approach, and how did you get so successful at the beginning when you raised the money first? And how do you intend to move that forward for the next stage?
So the first round of money that we raised was a little over $1.2 million. I put money into that round. Ever since then, I've put money into round, and frankly, I haven't asked and gone back to my investors because I'm a little bit of an unusual guy. I'm a very competitive human being. I don't want investors, honestly, if I can help it. I don't want to take their money until I think I have something really big. This is it. So from my perspective, it's now charge forward. The numbers, now if we can hold these kind of cost of acquisitions, look fantastic. So next thing is to raise this next round of money and push forward.
Okay, and how much again are we going to raise?
$1.1 million.
So we're going to get $1.1 million. And how many users do you think that's going to get for you?
Well, I thought about 52,000, but based on the numbers right now, it'll be over 150,000.
Yeah.
Which is really good because when you start piling on the next round of $4 or $5 million,
that's a couple of $1 million a month for you, for all of those people who are out there with quick calculators.
Yes, could be. Well, just remember, it's if they get $20, it's 15%.
$2 a piece.
Yes, $2 a piece. So you're right. Your math is better than mine on a quick go around like that.
Yeah, no, just it puts you into a really, really strong position straight out of the gate, and that's just the beginning. And the gorgeous thing about your platform is it's a software as a service platform, which is a recurring revenue model.
Yes.
It's like the favorite model for all of the VCs that are out there. Okay, I like it. Like I said, we're 100% in. I love the product. I love where you've got it to. I especially love that you've had to go through the iterations to get to a place of surety.
It's been
because it's too hard at the beginning. At the beginning, like we sit and we do our pitches and we're like, we got this idea, 100% it's going to win, but we don't know, right? But when we've actually seen it, touched it, seen the customer, see the next iteration, touched it, seen the customer, and then we get to a place where actually we do know for a fact because we've seen it, we've changed it, we've moved it, and now we've tested it, and this is the one they all love.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, well, and you have to wait for things. Here's one of the things. 7 or 8 years ago, no one would have thought about this. No one would have thought, wait. And I have to say, this is coming from the 18 to 24 to 35-year-olds who are saying they're the ones who've kind of discovered, wait, this is my data. Why don't I get to sell it? And I was just like listening. And then I had the idea, because I've already built browsers, right? And one thing I want to describe, which is super important, eventually, which just takes a little more money, we'll combine the stealth browser.
I know you will.
Right?
I know you will. And that's why I was thinking two things. You had me, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking, okay, there's two awesome things here. The first one is that the more popular you get, the more you're going to move away from just having the brokers, and the more brands are going to come to you directly. And if I'm a beauty brand and I'm going to say, like, how much is the broker paying? And they're paying like $30. Well, how about if I paid you like $35, and then I can get access to all of this information. We can directly target people with products that they know about. And then the second part is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And you can have, hey, how do you feel this month, Brian? You want to be stealth, or you want to give up your data? You want to give up your data and make some money, or you want to be stealth and have control of your own data? The decision is yours. Sure, and that's where you get to the real utopia.
Right. I can't think of a more perfect browser than you have this utopia. You said it right. When I've realized this, of course, because I put the puzzles together and I realized, wait, it took me 7 years to build this, I'll say this perfect stealth browser. And now I get a chance to marry it so that you have both at the same time. You can 1 second be totally open and selling your data. Next minute you go, I want to be private on something. You flip the switch and you're totally private.
Yeah, and the thing is, you then get rid of every objection in the world, because even if somebody says, "Oh, I'm not giving away my data," it's like, dude, you are. You have been for the last 30 years. But if you don't want to, no problem. We'll just flick you off. I adore it. Okay, two things. Number one, I want to make sure everybody has your details. I want to make sure that they have the details of the website, investors, and anybody who wants to contact you who can be of assistance to your growth, and also your email address so people can contact you directly. And then I want to finish off with, in this realm of being a tech entrepreneur, everything you've learned in a couple of sentences as a piece of advice to everybody who's listening.
Okay, so our main website is getcocoon.com, and if you go there, you'll see a sort of a place to hit a button that says to go to My Data Rewards. That's probably the easiest way to go to My Data Rewards. My Data Rewards is a little hard to find because, we've only been out for a week, but it is My Data Rewards, Cocoon My Data Rewards. It will pop up if you do a search for that. If not, just go to cocoon.com, getcocoon.com, and you'll see it, and you click on it, and you'll be on our site, and you'll see My Data Rewards, and we'll talk about your data belonging to you.
Your email?
My email is jeff@V like in Victor, world, C like in Charlie.com.
Okay, so vworldccharlie.com.
Right, correct.
C for Charlie. So
C for Charlie.
vworldc.com. Okay, correct. Perfect. And your advice after this journey, which has been how long?
8 years.
Take 8 years and summarize it in a couple of sentences of everything that you would tell a new entrepreneur to do to make sure that they have a quick road to success.
So I would say you start down your path, be able to pivot. Don't overspend, by the way. Don't go crazy and put yourself in bankruptcy or something. You should know your limits, like I know my limits. Know your limits. You can get on the edge, but don't go over that edge, and keep pivoting. Because until you find the right magical thing, you might have thought you had the right magical thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're lucky on the first one, but most people are not lucky on the first go round. So be sure you have an open mind, listen to other people, take in their advice. And that's the best thing I can tell you to do.
Jeff, it has been a pleasure, my friend. I'm looking forward to being part of the journey, which is going to create the browser of the future. Actually, the browser of today.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. And I'm looking forward to the journey. I can't think of I was so excited to meet you last time and thought, now here's the guy who totally gets it in the first go round.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you, sir. And that's a wrap.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. If you love the podcast, please empower your circle by sharing these stories. The Art of Startup War is brought to you by Expert Dojo. And remember, we invest in startups, $50,000 checks. Make sure you apply on our site if you are one of those great entrepreneurs looking to bring your company to the next level. As far as the Art of Startup War is concerned, we are back every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. So remember, check out the new episodes. If you want to find out what the investors think, check out season 1 or 2. But make sure you join us every single week.